back to Cynthia Untamed. This is your youthful and educational platform where we have conversations with and about children and youth in Africa, and we aim to inspire the current generation of leaders across the continent. I woke up today thinking about myself as a child of Africa, a child born and raised and educated in Africa. And I thought about all the challenges that we as young people and the children of this continent face. And of course, I cannot even name them all. You can name them all in the comment section below. And I wondered, what gives me hope as a child, as a youth coming from Africa, born and raised in Africa? And I just went online and I started searching famous quotes about African children and youth. And I just wanted to share them with you. This is what came up in the search engine. So I'm going to share them with you and I'll give you my little opinions about them. First up is a quote by the late Kofi Annan, who was the UN Secretary General. He said, "Despite significant progress in recent years, millions of African children have never set foot in classroom or owned a book of their own in their lives. When people are able to access education, they can break free of the cycle of poverty and contribute to building a fairer and more peaceful society." Now, this quote by Kofi Annan brought to me some reflection about the work I do when it comes to education. And I think I have mentioned this a lot in my videos, where I keep saying that I have noticed that more educated people are more privileged one way or another and have more access to opportunity. And of course, then there's a whole debate about the education system that you go through. In Kenya, there are different types of education system. There is the 844 system, which is being reformed at the moment to the competency-based curriculum. And then there is the IGCSE, there's the American system. There are so many types of education system in this country. There are children who are homeschooled. And I have noticed that depending on the school you go to, depending on the education system you go through, it tends to determine the kinds of opportunities you will get. But the common feature among all these education systems is that the more educated you are, the more skilled you are, and not just education, just any kind of education, but quality lifelong learning, the more access you have to opportunity, especially when it comes to employment, whether that's self-employment or you are employed by an organization, you're employed by a corporate company. And at the end of it all, if you have a source of income, then it means that your children will have better lives, and then that trickles down to the generations. So the more privileged I am, the more privileged my children will be, and the more privileged that children's children will be. And of course, then you'll just need to do an analysis of some of the top leaders of the continent, and you'll get to see that access to opportunity, and especially education, gives them access to other spaces. And then there's this one that brought to mind the aspect of protecting children. The one by Kofi Annan was on education. This one was on protecting children. Nelson Mandela, who we are all familiar with, I believe, said, "Our children are our greatest treasure. They are our future. Those who abuse them tear at the fabric of our society and weaken our nation." So true, so true. And of course, I have seen that in the line of work that I do, that when a child is abused, when a child goes through traumatic events in their early years, then of course it affects the kind of individual that they will be. For example, a child who's gone through violence in their early years will tend to be more violent in their adulthood unless they go through some sort of therapy, some sort of a way of establishing their self-esteem and enabling them to know that they are important individuals. And of course, then that goes on to other generations. And that's why you find that there's a generation of young people who are going through so many traumatic challenges. So I truly believe that it is important to protect our children. Never let a child go through abuse. If you've heard of a child who's going through abuse, make sure you report it. There's this campaign that has been done by UNICEF. It's called the Spot It, Stop It campaign. And it aims to raise awareness among children and caretakers, the guardians of our children, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, that if you spot any act of violence against children, whether it is corporal punishment, whether it is defilement, whether it is child labor, that you will report it and follow up on it, so that our children can be protected and they can be stronger and better and healthier individuals for our nations and for the country, for our nations and for the continent as a whole. As I was reading Nelson Mandela's quote, I came across a quote by a Blog for Dev winner. If you are not familiar with Blog for Dev, in full, it is the Blog for Development competition that is run by the World Bank Africa office, and it aims to encourage young people in Africa to share ideas about developmental challenges. In 2016, I was privileged to be a finalist in the World Bank Kenya Blog for Development contest. My submission focused on mentorship. So if you want to learn more about Blog for Dev, just Google Blog for Dev World Bank Africa and you'll get all the information. But there was this quote by a winner from Botswana. Her name is Esther Modise. She won the Blog for Dev competition in 2020, and she reiterated Nelson Mandela's words. It is everyone's responsibility to protect children. I'm not going to add anything there. If you walked along the streets of Nairobi, if you walked along the streets of Cape Town, if you are in Abuja, and you asked a random young person what challenge they think African youth are facing currently, mental health will come up, but there's one that never goes away, and that is lack of jobs. Lack of jobs. Sometimes I try to think about it and I wonder, how are we going to create jobs for the millions of young people in Africa? In 2017, I was privileged to participate in a workshop on children and young people that was being hosted by the UNICEF Africa office. And we were talking about the demographic dividend. If you've not heard of that word, it's basically the whole concept that there will be a time when Africa will have the highest number of young people in the world. And that was 2017. I think in my head at this moment, I think Africa is the youngest population in the world. But here's the point, that we will get to a point whereby if we don't utilize the potential of African children and young people, then we will have a missed opportunity. We're going to sit down and we're going to think, oh wait, we did not develop the skills of our young people. We did not enable children to attain their milestones. And what's going to happen? They're not going to be productive members of society. And one of the ways is to create jobs. So Fred Swanika says, if we don't create jobs for an extra 1 billion people in Africa by 2050, we're sitting on a ticking time bomb. Ticking time bomb. Did you hear that? Ticking time bomb. Imagine. In 2050, young people like me will be the leaders of our time. We will be the presidents, we will be the cabinet secretaries, we will be the envoys, the ambassadors, the CEOs. And I keep wondering, if we don't have opportunity at this moment in our lives, are we going to be the leaders that our continent needs? That is a question I'd like for you to answer. Patience is a virtue. You've heard that a lot. Every day you hear that a lot. You've also heard that my generation is impatient. We are not focused. We want things to come really fast. We want everything to work like a microwave. I truly believe in grit, in determination, and in focus in achieving your goals. But you don't always have to be patient. Being patient sometimes is not necessarily a good thing. especially when you're talking about demanding for your rights, demanding to be in spaces that you deserve to be in. You cannot always sit and just wait. Sometimes you're going to have to be aggressive to access spaces that you know you deserve and are not getting into those spaces because of lack of privilege or many other factors. If we want to build this continent, if we want the young people to build this continent, we're going to have to put patience aside. In some instances, we are going to have to do that because we are saying that young people need to be innovative. When you say a young person needs to be innovative, then they cannot just sit and be patient. They cannot just sit and see a challenge and do nothing about it. So impatience can be a good thing when it's being used to drive a good agenda, when it's being used to drive an economic agenda, and that's building this nation and this continent. Akinwumi Adesina, the president of the African Development Bank, supports my opinion. He says we have to be impatient in moving Africa forward. Now, this is where patience is a good thing. This is where it's a good thing. Grit, determination, focus. Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa, said, "Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again." And of course, then that is a lesson to me, to the children, to the young people, that things don't come easy. You may want to be the president, but it takes time for you to get there. You need to understand how economies work. You need to understand communication skills. You need to understand diplomacy. You need to understand security issues. There's so many things you need to understand. If you want to be Chief Justice, you need to understand the law. You need to practice for a couple of years. You need to develop good judgment. You need to understand so many issues. If you want to be the Speaker of the National Assembly, you need to understand the concept of debate. You need to understand the concept of time and the concept of working with people from different areas, different leaders. You need to understand their perspectives, their thoughts, the good habits they bring to the National Assembly, the bad habits they bring and you'd like to stop. They're all these things. But before you get there, before you get to that ideal kind of leader, you're going to fail hundreds of times. I cannot even count the number of times I have failed. Trust me, I cannot count. But when I look back, the number of times I have failed, that's when I actually discovered my true potential. That's when I learned how to be patient and to be focused, to focus more on the process than the result. That's where patience comes in. Patience is also a good thing. Listen to this. It's within our capabilities as young people of Africa to change the continent. We have what it takes, but it's going to take everything that we have. Given from Tanzania. Wow. I love that. I love that. And which is why I continue to amplify the stories of young changemakers on CynthiaUNTAMED.com. Do check it out and see what stories inspire you. Remember I talked about being innovative? Yes. When you're talking about building this continent, it will take all that you have. It will take your time. It will take your brains. It will take your mind. It's probably going to take away some of your friends, because you get to a point where you realize, my friends and I are not really heading in the same direction when it comes to building this continent. So maybe I'm going to have to look for some new friends. So yes, it's within your capability. Believe in yourself. Never let anyone underestimate you as a child, as a young person. Never allow that. If they say you cannot do it, prove that you can, and not just to them, but to yourself, because you're so capable of doing so many things. You're capable of achieving all your dreams. You just need to be patient, to be focused, and to work hard and smart. Hard and smart. You may have to spend sleepless nights, but it will pay off in the end. I wonder what voices you listen to. Personally, I try to listen to inspiring voices. I try to listen to inspiring music. I try to watch inspiring content. And I try to read inspiring books as well. And as you do that, you develop voices. Your circle determines the voices you listen to. If you're always around negative people, then the voices around you will always be negative. If you're around positive people, then the voices around you will be positive. So listen to what Shabani says. Shabani from Tanzania says, for every young person in Africa, there is a voice inside him or her that has the potential to change the world. Your attitude really determines your altitude. If you've not watched my video on my attendance at the Pan-African Youth Forum in 2019 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, you're missing out on some great content. So just look for that video. I will leave the link here, so check it out. But during that conference, I met Malara Begira, who is one of the winners of the Generation Unlimited Challenge. The Generation Unlimited Challenge enables young people to share innovative ideas, and they get to be mentored and they get funding for them to develop their ideas. So watch out for the Generation Unlimited Challenge. But Malara inspired me. She inspired me. And here's one quote from her during that summit. She said, "I will tell every girl in my camp, dream big. If I can do it, so can you." Malara is from Darfur in Sudan, and she is a girl who's grown up in a war-zone area. She's a girl who's gone through so many challenges, like many young people who are affected by conflict. But Malara and her team decided that this was not going to limit them. So they use creative ideas to earn money for themselves. They make baskets and all forms of art, and they sell them. And because she believed in herself, she and her team participated in this competition, and her team was one of the global winners. And because of that, she started getting opportunities across the world. That's coming to Addis Ababa for the Pan-African Youth Forum. She was also declared as a youth advocate for UNICEF by the executive director, Henrietta Fore. And it's stories like this that give me hope, that no matter where you're from as an African youth, as an African child, you can make it and your life can change for the better. But of course, this was not going to miss out. But I was also surprised to find it. I was like, famous quotes by African youth, and my image appears. Anyway, this is what I said. African youth want an African Union that reaches the most vulnerable. Development and opportunity mean different things depending on the current needs of the young person. I said this at the Pan-African Youth Forum as well. And for me, I was just thinking about how we as the children and young people of Africa are so different. We are so different. The children who've been in the justice system, there are those who've not been in the justice system. The children who grow up in areas where they face harmful cultural practices like FGM and child marriage. And then there are others whose main challenge is flooding. They're not able to go to school because of climate change. So there's flooding all over the place, and there are crocodiles living in their classrooms, and then they can't access education. And I was thinking about all the organizations that exist for young people that are run by leaders and are run by young people like you. And I said, surely we cannot have a one-size-fits-all kind of affair. We need organizations that cater for different kinds of young people. Think about it and let me know what are your thoughts. Remember the initial quote by Fred Swanika about investing in young people, especially when it comes to jobs? Bridget from Tanzania emphasizes this as well. She says, young people are a tremendous resource for Africa, and to realize their potential, it is imperative that the right investments in their education, health, skills, and empowerment are made. And that's it about the famous quotes about African children and young people that I found that inspired me and I thought I should share with you. What are some of your other famous quotes about African children and young people? Proverbs, sayings. If you can, please say it in your local language and then translate it to me in either English or Kiswahili, because those are the languages that I understand. I'd like to hear from you. And then, of course, you know that at the end of my videos, there's always a call to action from CynthiaUNTAMED. My call to action to you today is to read a book that I have introduced before on this channel, but you probably missed it, so I'm going to talk about it again. It's called #YouthCan by Liz Ntonjira. She has interviewed young people across the continent about the challenges and opportunities in Africa. She's also interviewed leaders who are not necessarily young, but of course who are young at some point, and they have wisdom to share with you. You can get it from Textbook Center. That's where I got it, but because I won it as an offer in a contest they were holding online. But you can also buy it from any Textbook Center. And let me read an excerpt from the cover page of the book so that you get inspired to buy it. For the majority of young people, growing up in Africa is a contact sport, only without the funding and technical support. For many of them, the journey to adulthood is like a slow run through a field of high grass. By the time they get there, they are bloodied and bruised by a relentless lashing of the blades. And then in young adulthood, they come to a crossroads. They can either let their wounds turn into battle-hardened scars, or they can remain honest and open, allowing their afflictions to become the impetus for change, and further still, for transformation. Not just for themselves, but for their families, their communities, their countries, and their continent. Wow. Do check out that book. I'm going to end this conversation here, but I'd like for you to continue the conversation on social media. Do follow me on Instagram at CynthiaOprah_Nyongesa, on Twitter at Cynthia_Oprah. And by the way, a couple of days ago, I received a package from the United States. You know what? I got this call from DHL, the delivery company, and they said, "Hi Cynthia, we have your documents from the United States." And I was wondering, okay, who in the world in the United States knows where I am, knows my address? And I couldn't figure out where they got my contact, and I kind of panicked because I was like, United States, that sounds like a very big deal. Anyway, as you know, I am a youth leader with the Global Partnership for Education, where I continue to amplify the need for funding in the area of education, an area I am very passionate about. And I brought this package, so I'm going to unbox it with you as we end this video for today. Until next time, see you.